Hey guys, it's your best fight friends. I'm Rachel. This is Kelsey, and we're going to get right to it.
Hey guys.
Canelo.
It's me.
Canelo just defeated Callum Smith, 12-round, unanimous decision. But let's say, that makes it sound like this was, he defeated. Like, no question about what happened.
It was a dominant display by Canelo Alvarez. Even though you skipped right over my funny Gabriel joke, I'm going to allow it. Look, friend of the show, Callum Smith, he just couldn't get his punches off. It's really hard to get your punches off against a fighter like Canelo Alvarez, who is so good at countering, who's so good. The hardest thing in boxing, I think, is the interplay between defense and offense. And Canelo is an expert at that. Floyd Mayweather was an expert at that. But Canelo he's just bringing a different kind of attitude to how he counterpunches. He throws such hard counterpunches all over the place. He's also like a super creative combination puncher. I think the first person to point that out to me was Lee Wiley. He's gone on to become the expert YouTube boxing guy out there in the world, right? Making those videos. And he's right. He's a great combination counterpuncher. He's a great fighter. Pound for pound, number one. If he's not on your pound for pound list, number one, then you're just plain wrong.
I have gotten to see Canelo. I've gotten to see his whole career. And I think
remember when he was born, and I was like, it's a little baby. And I was
it's
like,
really
this
special.
Got red hair.
I've gotten to see Canelo come up and just get better every single time. I remember the first time I saw him with his amazing defensive head movement, and it was against Austin Trout, and I was like, who is this guy? I hadn't seen that guy in the ring before, and this was before, he wasn't, I was a fan of Austin Trout at the time. I thought Trout was going to beat Canelo in that fight.
I remember when I thought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. would beat Canelo. Oops.
It's just, he is, amazing to see him in there against Callum Smith. The height difference, the reach advantage that Smith had, and yet his head movement, and he's walking down the bigger guy all night. It was just, I have to say, from the side of Callum Smith, I could feel it in my heart.
Yeah.
I saw, it was past the midway point of the fight, and Callum Smith went to his corner, and I saw the frustration in his face. And it hurt my heart because there was a man who wanted to win this fight, who was bringing what he could, but he didn't have an answer. And I wonder if anyone around him had an answer.
But
because he looked like a man.
You said this before, but I don't think anybody has an answer. Like, there's no answer to give him because Canelo's that good.
Well, I think some people in their prime, if you could be prime versus prime, like a Manny Pacquiao prime might have an answer for Canelo. A Floyd Mayweather prime might have an answer for Canelo. There's people that might, and I'm just saying that Callum Smith I watched, and it hurt my heart because I saw the frustration to not have an answer for this guy. And you thought that you did, and everything that you were doing. And then we saw towards the end of the fight, right, that Sergio Mora pointed out that Callum Smith went to throw and land one of his signature punches, but Canelo saw it before it came, and he, and that the two fighters, laughed about it because Canelo's just that good. Like, he somehow sees everything before it comes.
That's a great moment. The fight happened toward the end of the fight. Can we use that as a segue into here's what's wrong with Brian Kenny? That's what I want to talk about. We need to talk about this because
that's not a segue for that. We can talk about that.
It's relatable. It relates to that because the whole fight from around 6 on, I'm hearing Brian Kenny who wants to stop the fight. Okay, that's annoying because it's a thing that consistently happens when Brian Kenny calls fights. All of a sudden, he's on my TV calling fights for DAZN. Here he did it for BBC. I love Brian Kenny as a human being. I think that he calls for the stoppage of fights way too often. Smith was never down on the ground. He has the wherewithal to be in a funny moment towards the end of the fight with Canelo. This is what boxing is, Brian Kenny, right? This is boxing. There didn't appear to be any significant danger. Right. Other than when people box, but that's what boxing is.
Well, Brian Kenny wasn't the only person. I had a couple people on my timeline who were like, you know what? There's no way he can win his fight. His corner should consider stopping it. And I'm like, That's not. I mean, would you watching an NFL game and a team is up by 40 points? Would you be like, well, they just shouldn't come out?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm okay.
Like nobody says
person
that.
or even anybody in the world watching the fight having like, well, I wonder if maybe this should happen. But you're the guy that's paid to sit there and call the fight for people at home, and you talk maybe like, how many minutes did you spend talking about them? They should stop this fight that everybody's watching right now.
Yeah.
I think it's a dumb take, but not nearly as dumb as Brian Kenny's take on the world title situation. He refused to call Canelo Alvarez
a four-division champion. Four-division, yeah.
Okay? Which would have been fine before tonight.
Right.
Okay?
So if you remember...
And I'm not for alphabet belts.
In a previous fight...
This is annoying.
Last year, Canelo's, I'm going to say promotional team, somebody was
sent out when he beat Rocky Fielding.
He's the four-division champ now, and we were all like, one of those...
No, we weren't all. A lot of people were like, yeah, they just parrot whatever the promoter sends them. But that wasn't the truth. It's the point.
Most people
just like Brian Kenny's wrong, they were wrong.
I'm just trying to explain here. Most people at that time recognized that one of those wasn't a legit world title. And in boxing, you have 4 major alphabet organizations. Those are legit titles. One of those wasn't. So now we come into this fight. He wins. This is now, he's got the hat, and I think even Canelo's like, four division champ, like this is it.
Yeah.
Like he's done it. And Brian Kenny now is like, no.
Now
you didn't do that at 175.
But he did. Like Brian Kenny, you can't make up just things as you go along. So either you're a really hard stance, lineal championship person, which is a whole nother can of worms. But even if you are, then I don't think he won it at 154, right?
Well, then you'd have to pick apart
I'm saying all of this is a complicated thing. We'll leave a link in the show notes on YouTube if you want to read it and how it works. But Canelo won one of the 4 alphabet belts that people considered major world titles, and he did it in 4 different divisions. He did it at 154, 160. He went up and did it at 175, and now he did it at 168. You can't just make up the rules as you go along and not give him credit where credit is definitely due. The International Boxing Hall of Fame, they give credit for those 4 major titles. Everybody in boxing does, and for some reason, Brian Kenny does not, and what makes me angry about it, I feel angry about it, I guess, it's because it's already so stupid and ridiculous to try to explain to people how boxing championships work. I mean, we wrote how many words? 1,500 words on this ridiculous system, but it is the system. This is what people consider legit, and you're just saying just another random nonsensical thing. I mean, I almost respect the IBO people more than this. You know what I'm saying? Like, why don't I just have another one? At least I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, Sergio Mora did try to correct him.
He's not being corrected by the producers at the zone or anybody sitting next to him. They did try. Where's my boy Chris Mannix? He got into it with Demetrius Andrade here, and I love it, like his thing. But I was like, get him, Mannix, get him. But he never got him, Rachel.
No. I didn't hear, but Chris Mannix also might have been because he does the post-fight, like in-ring interviews, so he might have been elsewhere at the time. I will say this, Brian Kenny is somebody that I have enjoyed in the sport.
No, I do love
him
Brian
and
Kenny.
Max Kellerman were people that I felt confident they both know boxing a lot, and they also cover other sports. And there was something I always appreciated, like they don't just cover, baseball or what have you, but they cover boxing, but they know boxing. And I do think that I just think in this one instance,
I think recently I've
that
been like,
it's a mistake that Brian Kenny's made.
Recently I've been like, does Brian Kenny even like boxing? Maybe he liked boxing 10 years ago and he forgot about boxing. I don't know. I mean, obviously he's employed as... in boxing, and I see him on my TV all the time. I don't understand why he so adamantly spews out things that are factually incorrect and cause more confusion than their promoters already do this. We don't need somebody just doing it. I'm saying
he did it tonight. I don't want to say like this is an all the time thing.
Well, the other thing he does all the time is he wants fights to be stopped in the middle of them.
Well, it's not all the time,
what seems
obviously
enough for me to have this feeling about it.
Yeah. He's done it often
Come
recently.
on, Brian Kenny. You're better than that. I know you are. Remember
Canelo,
that time you got with Floyd and y'all were yelling at each other? That was great. Remember that?
Canelo. This is a fighter that out there that I think people should stop and pause and be grateful that you're getting to witness this kind of skill and talent. I mean, Canelo, he is, and earlier today I was kept arguing with Kelsey that I don't think Canelo at light heavyweight I'm concerned about him at that weight class. I think it's too much. But after seeing him against Callum Smith, I'm like, you know what? Maybe he fights a couple more fights at super middleweight and then he's a light heavyweight from now on. I don't know if I need Canelo to go back down again. I think he might just be like, I mean, he's really, really good. This is one of the, like, now I'm like, oh, I'm grateful that I get to see this guy, just like I've been grateful to watch all of Manny Pacquiao's career, all of Floyd Mayweather's career, and that I'm grateful that I'm old enough to actually get to appreciate, like, total careers like this now. Like, it's pretty amazing because there's lots of guys from the past I didn't get to appreciate that. You know, I didn't get to appreciate all of, let's say, an Evander Holyfield or a Mike Tyson or a Roy Jones. You know, I didn't get to appreciate all of them. But this, I want to take stock of this and stop and pause and just appreciate it. Canelo looked amazing tonight in the ring. Like, it was fantastic.
Yeah. We're going to talk about our predictions. Because if you boil down predictions to the most pertinent information, I picked Canelo's decision.
You did pick Canelo.